Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to another episode of my F1 22 My Team career mode. This is episode number 59 today for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Season 4. If you guys did miss the previous one at a new track for the very first time in this My Team series on this game at Portimao, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one uploaded a couple of days ago. That one was a literal roller coaster of the Portimao circuit, but also in terms of how that race went for us and numerous various drivers. But I believe for the very first time, or the first time in a long while, and very rare time, we are leading the Drivers' Championship following that race, 3 points ahead of Alexander Albon in second place in the Red Bull. Lando Norris in the same points as Albon after suffering an engine failure for McLaren Mercedes at that circuit, and Yuki Tsunoda got the podium. A double Red Bull podium saw them climb up to the top of the Constructors' Championship. But the big story was, well, first and foremost, Leclerc getting his first ever win in his Mercedes career, and also that very fiery and dramatic incident with Pierre Gasly, probably one of the biggest shunts we've had so far in the season so far. Thankfully, we actually came away without any damage, but we did have a lot of tyre wear, which made that end of the race very difficult. Off the back of that one, though, into the next race, we've got quite a bit of time in the activity timeline to maybe get some more upgrades in. We've already got a rear downforce upgrade pending. I'm going to go ahead with the just over 1,000 R&D points purchase, the equivalent of the front downforce upgrade, to balance out that area of the car. And just before we get to the race weekend, we're going to have enough points earned to also purchase a DRS upgrade, which I think will be quite useful for myself and hopefully Sainz in race conditions once that comes in for the rest of the season. But we've got a very interesting set of developments going into Baku. So we being a small upgrade, that gets us ahead of McLaren now. We're officially the second best team on the grid. Red Bull maintain their advantage. But look at the progress that Repsol Haas have made from the bottom of the grid. They have climbed, they've soared up this R&D chart, and now are ahead of Renault and the Audi Sportworks team, and not too far off Mercedes and even ourselves and McLaren. So maybe they, heard maybe all the kind of, harsh criticism for myself from what happened last season with their performances, and that new cash injection of a new title sponsor from Season 3 and this season maybe is paying off for them finally. These kind of things maybe do take time, and like ourselves from Season 3 into this season, they maybe just have to wind up those investments and R&D points, and they've really made a leap up. So maybe we might see the Haas team with two junior drivers of Drogovic and Schwartzman maybe make an impact at this race weekend and beyond maybe. So that's going to be quite interesting. There's a bit of a dynamic shift change in that very tightly contested top 10 into the midfield, I guess, but we'll just have to see how that plays out. But we're now into Q1 on this Saturday here at Baku on our second flying lap, having a bit of a race with Kevin Magnussen in the Porsche Williams there to start our first flying lap. Not ideal considering the first lap we did on this same set of tyres was a very poor one, getting to grips with the circuit, lower downforce setup, because now we are obviously getting those air upgrades in, but that kind of meant the car was a bit different to what I drove in previous races. So maybe getting used to that lower setup, but ultimately probably the same amount of downforce. We do find enough time though in Sector 2, and hopefully the run into the finish line, and that will get us through into the second part of qualifying. Just about though, P15, a little bit close for comfort, but we do make it through ultimately. But Magnussen didn't help us out too much into turn 1, but Sainz up in third. Seems like he's also maybe listened to some criticism maybe that I had for him last episode, as he's looking a lot better with the car. Maybe it was just the case of he was waiting for the car to be that much better and then he'd show his hand, or maybe just those first few races, maybe not to his liking, still getting used to setting up the car, etc. Kind of like ourselves, obviously, in Season 3. So let's see how he goes for the rest of this race weekend. But Vettel showing the Audi Works team still maybe a match due to the straight line speed of the Audi engine. Lando looking strong in the McLaren Mercedes, but now we're through into Q2. The sun is coming down a little bit here around Baku, but we are really going to the maximum of the circuit around here in Baku, getting so close to the walls, and this was a really satisfying Sector 2 for me here in qualifying. Like, I feel like this was probably one of the best laps I've done on the game so far around Baku. The car just hooked up a little bit. I had that confidence to chuck it in and commit to the left and right handers, getting close to the wall, kind of like you do at Monaco, and it sees us up in P1 in Q2 to get through into the top 10 shootout along with Sainz, which is great to see. But look at that set of results. Quite a shocking Q2. Where on earth did the pace go for the McLaren Mercedes cars? Gasly P11, Lando Norris in 13th place. So I don't know whether that was traffic or, you know, after the engine failure for Lando, maybe the parts are a bit worn out still for McLaren and they're looking to maybe do a set of grid penalties. But Drogovic in the Repsol Haas into the top 10 along with the 2 Mercedes, 2 Audis and the Red Bulls, and 1 Renault of Sergio Perez. But what a fantastic qualifying that is for the young Brazilian in the Repsol Haas, showing those upgrades are really truly working very well for Haas, and a weird disaster for McLaren, both of them in the second part of qualifying, but potentially grid penalties to come for maybe 1 or 2 of them, maybe even. So with that, now we're into the top 10 shootout. Maybe a very good chance to go for the front row, maybe even pole position. But on our first flying lap, getting it a little bit too crossed up, way too hot into that right-hander, and pretty good driving actually from myself, I feel, to avoid the wall and not crash out of this session and keep it going without any damage. A little quick little flick spin in the runoff area, and so we have to go again, and we're at the same portion of the circuit now on a new set of soft tyres. Always planned to go on the newer set on the second run, because of course now following the tyre allocation patch from the game, you only get 1 new set every session, so I saved it for the second lap, and thank God I did, because this time a little bit less hot into that right-hander, a little bit less committed potentially in Sector 2 than we were in Q2, but just to make sure we actually get the car around in one piece basically, and trying to do the best job we can. I mean, it's hard to say what the pace is going to be like now, because I've got no yardstick from my first lap, having to abort that. But at the moment, Sainz in P6, ahead of Perez, Albon down in P8, so myself and him have some work to do. I'm assuming Tsunoda, that means Tsunoda and maybe even Drogovic are way up there as we go across the line. It is fastest of all, ahead of Tsunoda, Russell, Drogovic, Leclerc. But by the end of this session, Albon, annoyingly, just gets it away from us there by actually a decent margin in the end, but just frustrating that it happened right at the end, basically. I thought for a second we may have been on for a pole after that mistake on the first flying lap in Q3, but no, it's still the front row, and Sainz is there in third. That is amazing. That is such a turnaround from where he was last episode. So, yeah, kudos to him. That's great to see for our team as well, of course. Leclerc, last race's race winner, alongside Sainz, his old Ferrari teammate, on this second row. Drogovic must be very proud to be up in P7 ahead of both Audi works cars. Bottas failing to set a time as he DNF'd out that session. Sergio Perez in P9 in the Renault. So, interesting times. The McLaren's taken a little bit out of the fight. Will they be able to come back through? And can we make the most of their absence maybe versus the Red Bull and Mercedes cars on the front row? Let's go to the grid for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix.
And a warm welcome to you from Azadlik Square, heart of Baku, and home, of course, to the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. With high speeds, tight corners and few runoff zones, many are expecting a safety car here today. So our drivers will have to stay very much on their toes and hopefully out of the barriers. Baku City Circuit then. It's an unpredictable 3.7-mile track around the streets of the Azerbaijan capital. 20 turns for our drivers to navigate today, including the infamous Turn 8, one of the tightest and most challenging corners of the season. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. What a great lap from Alexander Albon yesterday. He'll start from pole position, and the owner driver alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Sainz, Leclerc, Yuki Tsunoda and Russell, Drogovic, Vettel, Perez and Valtteri Bottas, Gasly, Fernando Alonso, Liam Lawson and Verstappen, Schwartzman, Ocon, Oscar Piastri and Mick Schumacher, Teo Pourchaire, Stroll, Magnussen and Lando Norris starts from the back of the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. Anthony Davidson, a lot of talented drivers out on the track today, but what will stand out for you?
My focus is 100% on the front of the grid. Like you said, we're seeing a lot of strong competition across those positions, so it would be super interesting to see the fight for that front spot. Personally speaking, I'm hoping for plenty of overtakes.
This could well end up being another very decent Azerbaijan Grand Prix for our team. Remember, last season, this was the place where we were able to secure our victory in Season 3 to get off the mark there, having had those first upgrades ever with the Audi brand with our team. So coming back to this place with happy memories, and it's been a happy hunting ground for us as the My Team team, because for whatever reason, it just seems to go very, very well around here in qualifying and in race conditions. So, and this is the proof again, you know, here in qualifying P2 and P3 for Sainz. So I'm actually really looking forward to this one. Should be an out-and-out one in terms of the strategy, you know, one stop from either the mediums to hards or hards to mediums, it looks like, for a couple of people, with the Red Bulls of Albon and Tsunoda both in the hards, myself, Sainz and Leclerc opting for mediums, but I believe it should be a one stop for most people. So all the racing will be done out on the circuit rather in the pit stops maybe, but you know, Baku, the wall's quite close. A safety car could come out and alter things, but right now at the start of this race, we've only got eyes on one position, P1 versus Albon, as we go to 5 red lights from the front row, lights out, and away we go for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Albon comes across to try and cover us, but we're going to remain committed to the inside. We bang tyres into turn 1, contact made, and look at Carlos Sainz out of nowhere. He's come through round the outside for the double overtake. Sainz leads this Grand Prix. We're still squabbling with Albon through turns 2. It's a drag race now down the straight. Red Bull versus Martini Audi. Can we make it a 1-2 early on in this race? We are going to try our best and we are going to manage it. We hold steady in P2. I can't believe it. 1-2 for the team. What an ideal start. I mean, you know, obviously I would have loved to have been in P1 myself, but what an amazing getaway for Sainz that must have been through turn 1. Leclerc overtakes Albon, so last race's race winner up into 3rd place, and you're seeing maybe the decision to go on hard tyres at the start of the race on heavy fuel is maybe coming back to bite the Red Bull guys. Albon down to P4, Tsunoda P5 as they go through the castle section, and Albon has got it all crossed up and he's into the wall at the castle section. It's the worst possible way Red Bull would have wanted this Grand Prix to begin, and now there's an absolute cluster of cars on top of each other with the ghosting system in this game. And look at that, Fernando Alonso, the wily old fox, has managed to climb up to P4. Magnussen in the Porsche Williams P5 with all those ghost cars. Lando Norris, if you watch the grid sequence, you'll know he was at the back of the grid with a grid penalty, starting on the hard compound tyres, and all of a sudden he's up into P8. So what a turnaround for Lando Norris with fresh engine components. P8 now, hard tyres. That could come out to be a very great race, and in stark contrast, actually a bit unfortunate for the likes of Gasly and the 2 Audi Sport Works cars. They've all fallen away because they got caught up in that ghosting, so a bit of a dodgy situation at the castle section, but we weren't included, and so we remain here in 2nd place, looking at the back of Carlos Sainz's rear wing as we're getting ready to go again and go racing on to lap 4. And we're going to go for the lead of the race immediately as we cross the start-finish line down the inside of Sainz, get to the apex, but go a little bit too wide with some understeer kicking in, and Sainz tries to switch back to go to the left-hand side. He remains in 2nd place though, as we do enough to keep the momentum going, using ERS to pull away a little bit, but Sainz will get in the slipstream and he'll gain and gain. We're going defensive to the left-hand side of the circuit. We'll tighten up our line, and we've got a bit too hot into that corner. Narrowly missed the wall, but we've invited Sainz and Leclerc through. That was not in the plan. That was a disaster, but like qualifying Q2, I could just see that wall on the outside getting closer and closer closer, and I winced my eyes a little bit in the cockpit, I can't lie, because I thought I was almost going to hit it. We just about grazed it and got away with no damage, but we've dropped down to P3, so really unfortunate. Immediately after getting to P1, we make a mistake there, and we're down to P3, and that's going to cost us. And, you know, in this portion of the season, we need to be making the most of the fact we've got the second best car on the grid. Both Red Bull cars are now down the order. I mean, Albon's out, Tsunoda's down at the back of the grid, so we have to capitalize on this and make the most of this, because we know the AI, they're going to upgrade faster than us with the boosted R&D and come back at us. So we're going to try and make amends for the mistake by trying to go down the inside of Leclerc and get back into second place. Sainz did have a fast lap of the Grand Prix. We now set a purple of our own on lap 6, and we recompose and go again and try to re-engage with this chase after Sainz, and hopefully the second time round when we overtake him, or hope to overtake him, well, this time we won't relinquish the lead so easily. But behind us, plenty of fighting going on. Kevin Magnussen flying high in P5 in the Porsche Williams, but for not too long, Russell trying to make a move here on the inside, but Magnussen gives it a real good effort to keep it around the outside and try and keep his nose side by side with the rear end of the Mercedes car, but in the end it looks like the Silver Arrow may have too much pace for him, and Russell up into P5, so very good day in the office so far for the Mercedes guys, P3 and 5, but look at that, oh, Magnussen coming back, it's Porsche versus Mercedes. It's great to see Magnussen actually have a good go, and he's ahead now narrowly of Russell. Russell probably wasn't expecting that. Through the next right-hander, Magnussen takes a bit too much curb, and Russell ultimately remains in that P5, but great to see Porsche Williams giving it a good go after getting that lucky position through that ghosting situation at the castle section. But here we are now, back underneath the rear wing of Sainz, well within 1 second, 2.5 the gap to Leclerc behind, so it's just myself versus Sainz, teammate versus teammate. This is going to get a little bit intense potentially. Sainz goes defensive, we go to the outside of the corner. Oh, Sainz! What have you done, man? What was that? Carlos Sainz almost just pushed us straight into the wall. I don't know how on earth we slow that down. I don't know how he slowed that down. But Sainz, very controversially, almost DNFs both of us as he locked up on the inside. We made the move to the outside, going the long way around. I thought that would have actually got it for us, because it seemed like Sainz tightened up his line so much. But now we're down to P5. Tyres are a bit too hot, and Lando Norris makes a very questionable overtake, I must say, for P5 there. He very much cut the entire corner there, but the FIA have turned a blind eye, so it is what it is. But here's a replay then. We go to the outside. It's all fair game. Sainz gets crossed up. How did he not get damage? He is a lucky man. This is the slow-mo. Huge lock-up for Sainz. I'm still turning in. And, we bang tyres. Here's rear right to my front left. And then look at that. He is one lucky boy. He just about narrowly escaped without any damage. I did as well, as we just slowed down the car, had to kick the car into reverse gear, and Leclerc's actually pretty lucky. He was able to just duck down the inside to get up into P2. So it's all kicked off today, as we're now seeing Verstappen versus Liam Lawson to get up into P11. Bit of damage for the Renault, so everyone in the wars today, it would seem. There's something about BAKU in the coding on this year's game. It is always just such an intriguing race, and the AI are so aggressive on each other and the player, and it makes for some insane racing. 3 abreast now into the left-hander, and Liam Lawson is straight into the wall, and Tsunoda has been caught up in it. It's a disaster for Red Bull Honda. Double DNF, Tsunoda taken out by just simply where Liam Lawson's car was. But what did I say? The AI, they're absolutely nuts on this circuit. I don't know what gets into them at this place, but that was insane. Bottas trying to go for the double pass, made it 3 wide with Verstappen and Lawson. I think Verstappen with the damage locked up a bit and went wide, and Lawson, kind of like myself, had nowhere to go, but unfortunately, compared to myself, he did not slow down the car in time, and he's straight into the wall, but that just showed that could have been me. I could have been straight into the wall with the lock-up sign tag on my inside there, so we can count ourselves so unbelievably lucky. But because of that incident, the debris, it's a second safety car of the race. We're in P4 now, despite the double stack, which is pretty good. Norris and Leclerc in between myself and Sainz. And if we manage to get up to fight him again, I don't know what's going to happen, but as we get going again, green flag conditions, lap 12, we're going to send one down the inside of Lando Norris. He's on the medium compounded tyre. Remember, the rest of us, we started on those mediums, and now we're on the hards to the end. Norris pitting onto mediums. Very early, though, because obviously he wanted to get a free pit stop, as you would. But whether he's going to be able to go to the end, I don't know. If he does, that'll be some feat. But right now, annoyingly, he's actually quite quick because of those medium tyres. And these hards are taking so long to warm up. We're falling away from Leclerc and Sainz. Obviously, you guys know historically, I've had a history of not being able to switch on the hards compared to the AI quick enough when we start these hard tyre stints. We go for the textbook switchback from right to left to re-overtake Norris and try and keep him at bay, because the longer we can keep him at bay, the more annoying that will be for his entire race. But he's trying his hardest to overtake us, and he goes for a kamikaze dive on the inside. Drogovic locked up and actually made some contact with us, because both him and the Brazilian basically just went for some dive bombs. Lando got down my inside. Drogovic had to slam on the brakes and just tap my rear end, because otherwise he was going to have an almighty crash into my rear wing. But Norris having none of it, and he wanting to get past me, because of course for good reason. If that was me, I want to get past me as quick as I can, because you want to use those mediums to good use. But look at the struggles I'm having as our rear end steps out, as I try and get some grip going on the hard tyres. Meanwhile, in Sainz's world, he's all good, up and running in P1. Leclerc keeping him honest, though, 7/10 behind. Lap 17 to 18, though, Norris using those medium tyres to good use. He's now within DRS of Leclerc, 2.8 seconds ahead of myself. Drogovic behind on the Haas. Bottas P6 ahead of Magnussen, Russell, Schwartzman and Vettel to round out the top 10. But Bottas is in for a second pit stop for the medium tyres. So that's why I question if Lando is coming in for a second time in the McLaren, as we now see Russell having a go once again at Magnussen. These two squabbling again. Porsche versus Mercedes for the second time in this race. Russell must be thinking, how on earth is this guy actually fighting me so hard? And Magnussen again is going to try and get that second bite at the cherry DRS, and he's actually going to go flying past him. The Porsche Williams gets back up into P6. Fantastic stuff. And this is helping out Drogovic to no end. Our first teammate in this career mode, remember, Season 1 in the Repsol Haas, now leading the team this year. P5 with plenty of time to him to Magnussen, so I think he'll be feeling pretty comfortable right now. As I said, Schwartzman, Vettel, Alonso now rounds out the top 10. Misery day for Gasly, P18. But in stark contrast, his teammate, who started last place with engine penalties, is up in P3 and he's flying and he's looking to make a move now. Leclerc goes all the way to the left-hand side wall to defend the inside. Lando pulls out to the right. They're side by side through the exit of turn 1. They're losing time to each other, and that's keeping me in the play, because you can see now in the background I'm lurking about now 1 second behind them. So if we play our cards right, we could get in the middle of this fight. But look at that, Leclerc comes back at the McLaren, and the Mercedes will try and get back up into P2. The two of them make a little bit of contact, but it's pretty amazing clean racing from Norris and Leclerc. Lando on the outside. Leclerc gets shoved off a little bit on the racing line, and we just slip on by up into third place. That is exactly what I wanted. I just thought, okay, there's surely going to be a corner where one of them gets unsettled, and that was it. We're up into P3. Obviously, myself versus Leclerc, we're both in the hard compound, so that is for a proper position. We're still, it still remains to be seen if Lando's going to the end. It's lap 19, so if he was going to do a two-stop, I feel like he would have pit by now. So I genuinely think Lando Norris is trying to pull off some insane mega stint on the the mediums and go to the end of this race. So we've got to try and pass him if we want a chance to have a go and chase after our teammate. Carlos Sainz 2.2 ahead of the McLaren, and we've got the pace now. The hard tyres have finally switched on a bit for us, and we're in the groove, and crucially, within 1 second, DRS available, bit of ERS to use as well, I'm sure, on the McLaren as we go towards the start-finish line for lap 20. We pull into the slipstream, pull out, open DRS, not using ERS because we don't have too much left. So I want to save some for the next lap, of course, because he's now going to get DRS on the next straight. And also that lock up into turn 1 does not help things. Not the best turn in there, but we remain in second place. But this is why I opted to save ERS on that back straight, because now I'm going to need it in case he comes knocking, but he does not. And instead, Piastri on lap 20... we see him in the wall, and because of the debris in Sector 3, the third safety car of the afternoon is going to be called out. So if Lando's going to pit, this is the time to do it, but I don't think he is. So as we enter the final few laps, it'll be a sprint race to the end, and it very much might be Sainz versus myself versus Norris and Leclerc. And here we go for the lead of the race into turn 1. We're ahead, but we lock up. Sainz on the inside when we wheel to wheel on the exit here. And now I'm a little bit worried of what could happen in this section, because coming up is the corner where obviously Sainz almost put me in the wall previously. But on the exit of turn 2, we actually have a horrendous getaway, and Sainz pulls away really quickly. And again, I'm left baffled at how some of these AI get such amazing accelerations on the hard tyre after having to warm the tyres up under the safety car. But by lap 24, we're back in the slipstream. No DRS quite yet, but we're using ERS sparingly and being clever. Sainz with a moment of oversteer. Finally a mistake from our teammate, and we capitalise on that. Up into P1, we took a wider line through turn 1, and that worked an absolute treat. But now Sainz is in the slipstream, but here comes Lando Norris in the McLaren on the left, Sainz on the right. Where are we going to go? We take it a bit cautiously into the left-hander because I wasn't sure that was going to turn into a 3-wide moment. Instead, we're going to be battling our fellow compatriot in the McLaren side by side through the right-hander. We skipped over the curb. We squeeze him to the left, but he just moves to the right. This is like a choreographed dance. It's insane racing. Bit of contact as Lando gets across us, skips the curb himself. We now go to the left-hand side and try and make a dive round the outside. Lando cuts that same curb again, and I'm left wondering, where is the FIA in all of this? Because it's the second time he's completely just cut that one to maintain or overtake a position. But it is what it is. He's in first place. We're now second. Sainz down to third. So it's not going to be myself versus Sainz. It's going to be myself versus Lando for the race win potentially, as we're slipstreaming Lando onto the last lap. We've got no ERS left on this lap, but it'll come back as we cross the line and we deploy a little bit, going to turn 1, getting the nose in very close to the wall. Bit of contact made on the right hand side, getting the elbows out. We're into P1 again, but Norris is there, and Sainz and Leclerc are having a battle for P3 and 4. We're going to use a bit of ERS, but I want to save it for the end of the lap because I know that could be the point where the race is won or lost. Norris with DRS, we come round the outside, and the McLaren clouts the wall with his left rear tyre. That's the move I wanted to do on Sainz, by the way, earlier on in the race, but didn't get the opportunity to do so. So into the last sector of the last lap, we're in first place, but Norris is coming at us with everything. He dives down the inside. It's a desperate move. He makes contact with us. We've broken our front wing. He's broken his, and through goes Carlos Sainz up into the lead, into the final corners. More damage made on Lando's rear end, and look at this. We've got like 6 cars all fighting for P2 down to P8. It's a drag race, and we're just about gonna get ahead of the McLaren to get second place in this race. Lando Norris third. Leclerc comes through into that first turn, maybe a little bit aggrieved at what just happened there. But Carlos Sainz, can you believe it, wins the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. It's a 1-2 for our team. But in the last corners, Sainz steals the win from third place to first. And look at this ending. The two Mercs slipstreaming. You can see Drogovic and the Repsol Haas try to steal a podium away from myself, Orlando. And behind, the two Mercs were fighting as well with the other Haas. What an insane last lap.
And so ends another Azerbaijan Grand Prix. A fascinating race and a well-deserved victory. What do you think it was today, Ant, that gave them the edge over the competition?
Well, you know what they say, to finish first you have to finish. And that fact was clear today, with lots of retirements having a big effect on the outcome of the race. As a driver, you tend to keep reliability concerns to the back of your mind and just focus on what's in front of you. But for the teams, races like this can be very stressful.
Here comes your top three making their way down to the podium for what can only be described as a fantastic day for Formula One.
From the absolute depths of despair at Portimao to the top of the mountain, Carlos Sainz climbs the summit and gets P1 at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. It's the victory. It's a 1-2 for the team. Amazing result, but also a bit of a bitter taste in the mouth because Lando, with that last move he made, broke my front wing and his front wing, and ultimately through that last section, because it's so high speed, I had to let off the throttle. Even he couldn't make the left-hander, and that just invited Sainz to dance around the outside of both of us to steal the race win. And we only just narrowly got second place back after the second bit of contact then, but my oh my, look at that. That is crazy. P2 to P7 separated by just about a second. The top 7 separated by a second. That is unreal. Unreal stuff. What a mad Azerbaijan Grand Prix. It means we still lead the championship 6 points ahead now of Lando Norris, who climbs up to second. Leclerc up into third after obviously the two Red Bulls with double DNFs. Sainz climbs the table into P8. I'm hoping that win may be a springboard that he needs to help us out as a team, of course, because, you know, McLaren and Red Bull, when they're not double DNFing, have looked like a very strong pairing respectively. So we're going to need him to be good, because we're now only 4 points ahead of Red Bull, despite just getting a 1-2. So that just shows how strong Red Bull and McLaren have been, but more so Red Bull actually, as they've been quietly going about their business with 100 points there, 4 points behind us. McLaren third, Audi Sport fourth, and Repsol Haas climb up to P8. And I'm sure they'll be looking even higher with the pace they've shown today and on the R&D chart. But guys, what a thrilling race in Baku. Bittersweet feeling at the end, but ultimately still a win for our team. Sainz takes the spoils. Guys, if you did enjoy it, hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula One content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.